Real quick, this video was filmed before the wildfires in LA started, and I know at this point a lot of these award shows have been pushed back to keep everyone safe and give everyone a chance to assess some damages, so I hope anybody who's being affected is keeping as safe as possible. I'll try to have some resources listed down below. So the Golden Globes just happened, and for those who don't know, that's an awards show to highlight the best television and film in the year, and it's kind of like second in terms of prestige in comparison to the Oscars for film and the Emmys for television. So while most awards show, even the biggest ones, and sometimes especially the biggest ones, have a lot of issues in terms of like weird internal politics, a lot of money going around, it's still a pretty big deal that means a lot for a career and for filmmakers' ability to continue making movies. Even though I don't usually find myself talking about awards shows, I'm actually notoriously horrible at even anticipating what's going to be nominated or winning or anything like that. I decided I wanted to give it a little go here, get back in the groove of things from the holiday season. I was working on a Nosferatu video and realized that there's just not enough footage to go as deep into it as I feel like, so we gotta wait on that one. And I actually found myself with a lot to say about this one because I was really surprised at some of the nominations, some of the wins. It's the first year that I've actually been able to catch every movie nominated in most of the television shows. I also think in terms of film, it's one of the best years in recent memories overall. So I just wanted to talk about some of those interesting nominations and wins, which ones meant a lot to me, and which ones have led to people being mad, including some of the stuff that was making me a little bit mad. And you can agree or disagree. We can have a little bit of a hypocrite arc going on in this one, but I will try to make my points solid. And if you want to know what I thought the best movies in TV were of the year, I did my yearly best of over on the Intercut podcast that I'll have linked below, and some of those movies are things that I've made full videos for on this channel, so some of them are probably not a surprise. Some of them are, though. Some of them were a surprise even to me. Like, you won't believe what hit my number 9 spot. But first, today's video is sponsored by the thing that made it possible for me to even watch the Globes in the first place, Surfshark VPN. Surfshark is my go-to to access region-locked content no matter where I am in the world. In just a couple weeks, I will once again find myself in Utah for the Sundance Film Festival, and so many times I've tried to access my Canadian streaming service Crave from the States only to realize I can't. Well, thankfully with Surfshark, I'll be able to connect to a Canadian server location and watch whatever I want on any streaming service. So say you're like me, mildly going through it over the holidays, want to watch Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but oh no, you're not at home, so you have to turn to Netflix, and another oh no, it's not on Netflix where you live. Well, with a quick trip to unogs.com, I found out that it was on UK Netflix connected to a London server, and I was good to go. And by good to go, I mean sad to go. SADTOGO. I was very sad at home. I'm fine, it was just too good of a bit to pass up. Surfshark is fast, secure, blocks unwanted ads, works across unlimited devices. They even give you the ability to generate alternate emails and US phone numbers to avoid giving out personal details where it's not necessary, to help cut down on spams and scams. So try out Surfshark for yourself by going to surfshark.com/Jedi or click the link in the description down below to get an extra 4 months of Surfshark completely free. So the Globes. Let's talk about some of the general issues people have and the stuff I see. So like with the Emmys, the Globes attempts to highlight more shows and movies, or at least have more people win in those awards. They have separated themselves into a drama category and a musical and or comedy category, which is pretty damn absurd. Like, so many musicals are dramas. There's musicals in this category this year that are drama movies. And of course, there's a lot of dramas with comedies, so things just kind of end up where the studios think they're most likely to win most of the time. For example, one of the biggest complaints the last few years of the Golden Globes, and I think the Emmys, and I feel it was actually the most valid this year, was The Bear being in the musical and or comedy section. It is absolutely a comedy.
We spilled a bottle of Xanax in the cooler.
What, are they fucking dead?
But it is a dark comedy, and it's also very much a drama, and this last season was definitely out-dramaed the comedy, where we were definitely higher on the drama side. But it does mean that we see a lot of comedic actors losing out on awards in categories they absolutely deserve to be in, because how do you not give something to Jeremy Allen White as Carmy? The way that whiny little chef goes on about anxiety gets to me. Now, in the movie world, the big complaint came from things like The Substance and A Different Man being in the comedy section, which is honestly where I'd put them based on the markers were given. If there was a horror category, that's absolutely where I'd end up sticking The Substance. But both of these movies are very funny at large points of their runtime. Like, The Substance has a lot of satirical aspects to its comedy, and A Different Man is a very dark comedy. So in both, that comedy ultimately ends up being pretty horrific and dark, and it ultimately comes from a place of deep tragedy within the characters, but it still fits the bill better than drama would. The way so much of the moments in each of those movies set up in terms of like the horror and the tension and the thriller follow comedy beats a lot more than they follow drama beats. Basically, it just kind of comes down to the fact that genres aren't super strictly adhered to in media when things are being made, and that can make it hard to figure out where something should go for the awards. But I still think the bigger problem we have here is that musical and comedy are the same category. But this idea of category fraud seems to spill more into actors and what actors end up being nominated for, more so than like what the movies themselves end up being nominated for. Like whether or not somebody ends up campaigning as a lead actor or a supporting actor, often a huge piece of contention. Some of that is due to confusion of what actually makes a supporting actor. Some of that is definitely studios trying to fudge the numbers. Like I know I saw a lot of people upset that Kieran Culkin was nominated for supporting actor in A Real Pain, but that one I felt like it could have gone either way because most of the movie is completely in Eisenberg's perspective. Like we will have moments alone with him while Culkin is gone. So other than those two scenes at the airport where we're really not even hearing into Culkin's thoughts, we're always just kind of like, we can see the pain he's in and kind of what he's going through. We're never in his head, whereas we are frequently in Eisenberg's head because he is the lead character. I've seen similar complaints about Zoe Saldana being nominated for supporting actress and Emilia Perez, who you do actually get a lot of scenes just with Rita's perspective. But I get that things can be a little bit tricky. While I do see how Culkin is supporting to Eisenberg's main, I would say that Challengers is a three-way tie for main because you get moments where you're fully, completely with each one of them. I've also seen a couple of people upset about the box office achievement category, which is a bit vague because it's not just a straight up top 10 list of the highest grossing movies of 2024. It's a combination of the most globally commercially successful movies that also had some kind of significant buzz going on around them. So it's really just like the popular movie vote. It's a way for things like Deadpool and Wolverine to get nominated and try to get more people to tune in to see if their guy's gonna win. So I don't really take that category particularly seriously. You know, they've already gotten their accolades with the massive pile of money they made, but it going to Wicked made perfect sense to me. It's the most recent of these big blow-up style movies, and it's also had a very consistent slew of memes, so it perfectly made sense to me. It really infected the public consciousness, and I haven't seen any Deadpool and Wolverine fans angry that it didn't win this category, but I've seen so many Wicked fans upset that they lost in other categories. And they're also focusing on the wrong people to attack in this scenario. Point being, though, there's almost always something with an award show that's going to piss people off, whether it's something being nominated or something not being nominated. Like, I'm glad Challengers picked up a lot of nominations here, but I feel on a wider scope, I've kind of been like surprised at how little certain associations haven't responded to Challengers that I felt they did early in the year. And then I'm just kind of confused at some other movies that are getting a lot of love. But there was also there was so many surprises here this year. Like Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley being nominated for Best and Supporting Actresses for The Substance, along with Corley Farjan making it in for directing and screenplay. The Substance feels like the least awards-friendly movie in terms of what typical standards are. So I'm really hoping that the Academy keeps up that energy for the Oscars. We've seen it before. I think that Demi Moore has a nice little storyline going on here, and the Oscars do love storylines. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but we should be awarding the movies. But if you think about how many movies get made in the year, not all of them are going to get the accolades that they deserve. I think Substance is a fantastic movie, and if Demi Moore's beautiful speech at the Golden Globes helps her get nominated for the Oscars, I'm okay with that because she deserves it, and the Oscars are always snubbing amazing performances, especially in the horror categories, or like exclusively in the horror categories. Sebastian Stan being nominated for A Different Man, which I saw all the way back at Sundance in January 2024, which is one that I enjoyed, but I'm very surprised to see any kind of awards buzz for it at all, so very cool. Fernanda Torres being nominated for I'm Still Here, and then winning was amazing to see. But then it got down to the winners where, there was a lot of really nice surprises here too. Shogun swept a lot on the television side of things, which I felt was very well deserved. We saw Jessica Gunning take supporting for Baby Reindeer, which is no surprise. Challengers thankfully won something, and it was of course for the original soundtrack by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, which is just so beyond deserved. That soundtrack is basically another character in the movie and just completely drives all the different power imbalances going on. It's incredible, but then it lost its original song to Emilia Perez. It's fine, it's fine. I was happy with most of TV, like even if something that I loved didn't win, it was at least nominated, like Ripley. And even so much of that movie side would go on to keep me very hopeful for what was coming. Like Kieran did go on to win supporting in A Real Pain, which I love, but would have been just as happy to see Guy Pearce or Yuri Borisov take it for The Brutalist or Anora. Flo came out as a surprise winner in the animated category, which was amazing considering this was a year where Pixar put out a commercially and critically acclaimed movie. We'll see if that carries over to the Oscars, because they've all admitted that they don't watch animated movies. Adrian Brody for Best Actor made perfect sense, along with Corbett taking the Best Director for Brutalist. Conclave for Screenplay makes perfect sense, and I love it, but there was literally only one movie in that entire category that I wouldn't have been happy to see win, and feel like it should have been swapped out with challengers. I was astounded when Sebastian Stan actually won the award for A Different Man, but absolutely loved that it happened because, again, was surprised he was even nominated. Let me know if you'd like a full video on A Different Man. I think it's going to be hitting some kind of streaming service this month. And I found that it made a nice little flip side of the coin for The Substance. And then what might have been the most meaningful win of the evening, which I've also realized has caused a lot of drama, which sucks, is Demi Moore winning Best Actress for her work as Elizabeth in The Substance, which I feel is so incredibly deserved. I have an entire video about that movie if you want to check it out. It is one of my favorites of the year. I adore so much of it. I've only loved it more on repeat watches. I love what it's saying and how it chooses to say it, how it's pointing out the flaws within ourselves, but then society as a whole, and flipping that back on the viewer. I can't imagine a movie more perfectly putting to screen that concept of violence against the self, pointing out an aspect of our society that we all know is a thing, but still all fall victim to. I know I have plenty of days where I look in the mirror and be like, did that look like that before? And showing how much of it comes from within, how we are our own worst enemies so much of the time. So taking that premise and casting an actress like Demi Moore, who is beautiful and talented, who I'm sure has absolutely reckoned with those aspects within herself in the 45 years she's been in the industry, and it just feels perfect. And then finding out that this is the only award she's ever won, incredible. In her speech, she mentions a producer from about 30 years ago who told her that she was a popcorn actress, which the most charitable way to take that is that she acts in movies that make a lot of money and get butts in seats, but don't lead to much higher consideration. So she let that statement make her think that getting an award wasn't for her. For 30 years, she essentially does what her character Elizabeth ends up doing, boxing herself into a category that she didn't need to.
I had a woman say to me, "You will never be enough, but you can know the value of your worth if you just put down the measuring stick."
And I just can't imagine a more beautiful thing than that the first time she really decides to cut loose, do something completely outside her wheelhouse, and really commit to this 6-month shoot for a movie that is like so outside the scope of what traditional awards look for, and then it does win her that big award is amazing. I also hope this is a shift in a better direction, but again, we'll really have to see where the Oscars go. You know, we can't go back in time and get Toni Collette the nomination at the Globes or the Oscars for Hereditary, but we can do better going forward. So with my timeline filled with people cheering for Demi and speaking up that beautiful speech she gave that is going to ring true with anyone and everyone who's gone through any kind of similar struggle, imagine my surprise to wake up the next morning to Wicked fans not just being disappointed that Cynthia Erivo didn't take the Best Actress win, but they are shitting on Demi Moore and The Substance. If you saw The Substance and hated it, that's fine. I have said from the beginning that is not going to be the movie for everyone, but there is no denying that Demi gave an incredible performance. That mirror date scene alone is award worthy. I don't have a problem with people disliking things or hating things or wishing that someone else had won, but I do think you have to meet movies where they are, or at least try to meet movies where they are. But a lot of the people I saw complaining had never seen The Substance, and all they're saying is things like, I can't believe Demi Moore won for a performance in a movie that no one's even talking about. Like, sorry, you're on the boring side of the internet, but The Substance was flying around for months. But also, that's not how award shows work. That's why they added the Box Office Achievement Award. Again, I get that The Substance isn't for everyone, but it is a great movie that generated incredible buzz and popularity for how wild it gets and how deep it actually engages with its issues. But yeah, no shit, a body horror didn't make as much money at the box office compared to a movie starring Ariana Grande adapting a beloved Broadway musical. It's actually very normal for high-grossing movies to be completely absent from award shows because they don't always cater to that side of entertainment. Wicked just happened to click on both sides of things, and that's why it's nominated in a lot of categories, but that doesn't mean it has to win every category. Like, there is no denying that Cynthia Erivo's performance in Wicked is amazing. She's not a nomination that I look at and go, oh, really? Because that happens a lot. There's a lot of times you see people nominated and you're like, really? But Demi Moore winning is actually a huge, beautifully deserved achievement, and we should be happy to live in a world where a movie like The Substance can be acknowledged and win things. Basically, it's fine to be upset that your guy didn't win, but like, be nice to Demi Moore. If she had done something wrong or the movie had done something really horrible in its portrayal, you could be a little bit more aggressive, but that didn't happen. But now I'm gonna be a little bit of a hypocrite. I said all that, but I also said you have to at least try to meet something where it is, even if you don't like it. This movie that I'm going to a little bit complain about it winning awards is that I think I have met it where it is, and I think it still has a ton of issues, but I just find myself getting a little bit more agitated the more it's nominated for things and the more awards it actually wins. And that is Emilia Perez. To start, if you love that movie, that's great. I love that for you. Not everything is for everyone, and this movie just really wasn't for me. I also find that large parts of how it was made and how they chose to tell the story to be pretty insulting and very regressive in a time where we really don't need that. I also just find if you reduce it down to its most basic level, it fumbled the premise of a cartel lord faking their death to transition, and I feel like you kind of had a lot to work with there, and I feel like it's a movie that is trying to do so much with that premise, but it's trying to do so much that it doesn't feel like it's doing much of anything well. Like, some of the numbers get so absurdly ridiculous, but then it's never enough to feel like it's intentionally absurdly ridiculous, and that just makes the whole thing feel very tonally off. And when it gets that tonally off and you get some of these ridiculous numbers, it just feels like the bad kind of goofy, and that's not what they wanted, I'm sure, and I know that not everyone reacted to it that way, but I'm sorry, I just feel like this did a real disservice to a lot of these characters and a lot of the real life people that would have similar stories. And I tried a couple times to really meet this movie where I felt it was coming from, but I still just kind of walked away very confused at the high praise from certain voters. This is just one of those ones that I understand why people would like it, but not like it to the point that it's like racking up this many awards. And when it came to the Globes, Zoe Saldana winning, no surprise, not upset. She is the best part of the movie, even with some of the goofy writing. As much as I would have liked someone else to get it, I totally understand her win there, and that's fine. Carla was also really good with what she was given to work with, but then it won for Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, and it wasn't even the best musical in the category. While I do think that Demi Moore was the better performance overall in that category, I would not have been confused to see Cynthia Erivo win, but I am surprised that Emilia Perez both won Best Picture in a musical or a comedy category, but also in the Best Non-English Language Film category. Like, look, I didn't expect The Substance to win that Best Of category, but it beat Nora? Even in the non-English category, it beat I'm Still Here, All We Imagine As Light, Seed of the Sacred Fig. Like, honestly, every other movie in that category, which I was finally fully able to catch up with this morning, it just feels weird to beat those, especially with some of those movies have actually achieved. I expected the awards push for Emilia Perez when it had like 12 or 13 screenings at TIFF, which is almost entirely unheard of. 8 would be considered an abundance of screenings. So I knew Netflix was putting the money into it, which can make a difference, but if it gets to the point where it's actually winning and not just being nominated, that's voters just voting for it and actually enjoying it, or at least thinking it's doing something worthy of being voted for. And I just want to understand why. If you really genuinely enjoyed this movie to the point that you think it is worthy of winning above all those things, I would love to hear why below, because all I'm really seeing is diehard Selena Gomez fans praising it, who I don't think make up the voter base, and then what seems to be the entire country of Mexico hating it for a variety of reasons, from just statements that have been made about the creation of the movie, the fact that it is in the Oscar running, and their own contribution of Suho was completely snubbed for the international Oscar consideration, and just a variety of other factors like how accurate the Spanish even is in the movie. I don't speak it to know. We learn French up here in Canada. But my mentions have been quite filled with people who just have a visceral hatred for this movie, and I'm not quite there, but I just don't get it. I think the most accurate comment I've seen is that it's this year's Crash. Like, remember when Crash won the Oscars and became a thing? Apparently it feels like that. But yeah, it's not like Megalopolis being nominated for things, and honestly though, I think it would have been really funny if Megalopolis had been nominated in the comedy category and like won.
So go back to the club.
That's the good bad timeline. But yeah, other than Emilia Perez getting a couple of the wins that I'm not a fan of, and again, you can call me a hypocrite for going at the Wicked fans for being really visceral towards Demi Moore, and then me kind of turning around and being like, but also Emilia Perez didn't deserve to win. I think it really just comes down to meeting things where they are. It's just, I do have a lot of issues with this movie. I guess that's what it comes down to. But yeah, outside some of that drama and like some weird weird snubs, like nothing for Dune 2. I think overwhelming, it was a really great year for the Globes. I don't know what it's going to mean for the Oscars because a lot of the shortlist stuff is a little bit concerning so far over there. But the surprise wins here, I at least really appreciate it. Like a lot of the stuff that was nominated and won feel like a step in the right direction. Like we're kind of increasingly seeing things that fall outside the typical box, not only being nominated, but also winning. Like Everything Everywhere All at Once winning was very weird for an Oscar pick, but horror has just been so often left out of it, especially when you start venturing into things like body horror, where I feel like we're still going to have a hard time nominating movies in some of those categories, but there's no reason not to nominate some of those performances when they do end up being the best performances of the year. But yeah, we got another movie running longer than 3 hours, taking home the best drama. The Brutalist won for best drama of the year. We've got an actress in a non-English film winning best actress over some of the biggest names in Hollywood. There really is so much to champion here and so much to hope for going forward with awards shows that have always kind of been this weird juggling act of like, what is the Academy looking for? What is the general public looking for? What are film lovers looking for? What is actually the best in any of these categories? And just trying to juggle all that in a world where people can spout off opinions as fast and as free as they want. Look at this channel. So yeah, even though there is one movie just vexing my awards experience this year, that really doesn't matter. Time is the greatest judge of media. I always like thinking back to what Céline Sciamma said when France did not put Portrait of Lady of Fire into the Oscar contention when it was easily one of the best movies of that year. That this means she didn't have to get all caught up in the Oscar race and have to kind of evaluate herself and her craft and her skills against all these other things and have people looking for reasons to tear her down, even though obviously winning an Oscar would be a great achievement and something that I feel like most directors and actors and people, even if they know that it's a game, kind of, that it's a political thing, you got to play the game, would still be happy to get. But I think that it's what ends up sticking down the line, what people continue watching for years and years, and what ends up resonating that is the true test of how good something ends up being and how proud you can be about it. Like, I think it would mean so much more that if in 10 years time people are still coming to you and saying like, oh my God, your movie means so much to me, it's something I watch all the time, or it's something that has changed my perspective and views, means more than winning an Oscar where you end up with a lot of people questioning whether or not you deserve it. And yeah, if Emilia Perez is that movie for you, if that is a movie that resonated with you in some way, that is great. For me, it was a lot of other movies that were nominated and a lot of movies that weren't nominated. But that doesn't make them any less valuable. But yeah, let me know what you guys are thinking down below. I'm still kind of trying to reckon out some thoughts of just my own personal upsetness at the comments and the vitriol I'm seeing against Demi Moore, and then obviously my own issues with Emilia Perez maybe feeling a bit the same. But I do think the difference is that I've seen all of the movies. I've seen all the movies that I'm talking about and critiquing. So I feel like I'm at least coming from a place of experience where a lot of the people bitching about Demi Moore have not seen that movie. So they're not actually coming from it from an honest place. And maybe that's cope, as the kids say. But yeah, let me know what you guys are thinking down below. If you loved Emilia Perez, I'd love to hear why. If you hated Emilia Perez even more than I did, I'd also love to hear why. But that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know what your most surprising award win was. What are you looking forward to in the Oscars? Do you think it's all stupid? But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Thanks as always to my Patreon supporters and YouTube channel members, and of course to Surfshark for once again sponsoring the video. They are one of my most regular sponsors and I love them. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave a like on the video if you're into that kind of thing. All my other social medias are listed down below. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm mostly okay, and we'll catch you all later.